see any of this.
What are you?
You sure you want to know?
Mark, you look different.
Am I like some sort of secret agent?
It's a little more complicated than that.
This is the best, worst day of my life.
There's chaos in you. Embrace the chaos.
Man, I don't know what it is about this time of year.
The eggnog.
Sound of sleigh bells ringing through the air.
The smell of fresh broken glass in the air.
Yeah, it's Christmas in California.
There's just something about this time of year that makes me want to give to the people I care most about. So being in California, that means I go into local retail outlets to do some smash and grab Christmas shoplifting.
Taking from businesses means I have more gifts to give to the people I love. And isn't that what Christmas is all about?
Going into stores and taking things without consequences is the trendiest thing in California since homelessness. There's really no downside.
It's not really stealing as much as it is reallocating the wealth to create a more even and mutually beneficial society.
Yeah, ever since California implemented the very progressive policy of not prosecuting shoplifters, it's made my Christmas shopping more affordable than ever.
I'm glad we're decriminalizing crime. I think that's going to help society become more inclusive for people who want to live without consequences.
Damn it, someone already got this place. Brent, was this you? You said I could have it.
After the murder rate up in Portland jumped up to 800%, I moved the family down to California because Portland is just not a safe place to crime in anymore.
Stealing, please don't use that term because it's stigmatizing.
I mean, look, we know the rules. We steal less than $950 per store to avoid being prosecuted.
Which is pretty easy to do because usually your Christmas trash bag's gonna break well before that. So it's kind of like a self-regulating system.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of smash and grab out in Georgia, but they have too much prison there. So moved to California.
The pandemic's been hard on the state of California, with the state's politicians creating lockdowns that destroyed most small businesses. But now because the same politicians have made it legal to steal from the few small businesses that are still alive, I think things are only going to get better.
Look, I've lived in California my whole life, okay? I've stayed safe throughout this entire pandemic, which we're still at the very beginning of. And so I obviously also stay safe while I shoplift. I wear my mask, I wear my other mask, I wear my third mask.
Being able to take whatever I want from any store I want, whenever I want, kind of makes it seem like every day is Christmas.
People think what we do goes against what the holidays are all about, but like, look at the Grinch. I mean, the Grinch looted an entire city, and everybody loves that green motherfucker.
I got my nephew 9 left-footed shoes and a Louis Vuitton purse. I think he's gonna love them.
And I'm happy to show my Vax card at any store I'm shoplifting at. That way I can let everybody around me know that I care about their safety, you know? Oh. Sorry.
Oh, look, free shoplifting bags.
Look, smash and grab looting isn't like a thing. It's more of like a concept.
It's important to be ethical with your Christmas shoplifting. That's why I always bring my own reusable bag to help protect the environment. The problem with normal Christmas shopping is when you pay for things, they generate a receipt. And printing receipts during the Christmas season kills 33,000 trillion trees every single year. But with Christmas shoplifting, we generate no receipts because we don't pay for anything. And I don't think we get enough credit for all we're doing during this climate emergency.
Everybody's getting in the holiday spirit. Look at that. A big truck? That's genius. Why didn't we think of that?
Merry Christmas. Oh, and to be more inclusive to people who don't believe in Jesus and therefore are choosing to go to hell, happy holidays.
Well, thank Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that was just a fantastic intro, folks, out there in the great land of internet. And that was JP Sears, by the way, people that don't know who that was. He's a hilarious guy. Check him out on YouTube. Really funny. Anyways, welcome to the MCU's Bleeding Edge, folks. You know we're the MCU's Bleeding Edge when we start out the show with that type of stuff, people. Anyway, so thank you for stopping by if you're watching this live stream, and those who are going to watch it later on, thank you for stopping. We're going to be discussing Moon Knight Episode 2 tonight with a awesome panel, of course. Of course, we have Mr. JB in the house. Welcome, JB.
Hey.
We have Vincent Vanspock returning. It's been a while, Vincent. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you. Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper, of course. And then, of course, we got Mr. TrueKnowledge up there in the house, my trusty co-host, part of the MCU's Bleeding Edge, and Mr. Bandmaid Lover. Oh, yeah. And, of course, I did see Renee earlier. It looks like she disappeared there for a second. There she is.
I'm back.
There she is.
Hey.
Welcome, Renee. Thank you for stopping on by.
Okay.
Awesome. So like I said, we're going to be discussing Moon Knight Episode 2, which is called Summon the Suit. And this is was a fantastic episode, I thought. I really enjoyed it. And it's going to be fun to talk about. So to start us off, so the episode starts off, of course, a recap, of course, of last episode. And then all of a sudden it shows Steven in bed again. And he jumps awake, jumps out of his bed, and is still attached by his ankle bracelet to his bed. And we have kind of like, he has one of those kind of moments where he's like, okay, what did I just see? Okay, why am I echoing?
I'm sorry.
Okay, anyways.
I pulled the Facebook up on my other computer so I can watch us on it.
Okay. Anyways, so he basically jumps out of bed. He's like looking around. He's like, what I just saw, was that real again? And, basically trusting his sanity. And basically then he ends up getting up and going to work. And when he gets there, he finds the whole museum in shattered ensemble, as we saw in the last episode, where the bathroom was all ripped up and all that kind of good jazz. And, basically he looks at the footage and it shows him just going kind of crazy in the museum and not being attacked by anything, which is really fun. So my first question for the panel is that scene there where he's watching the video footage of himself. What was your guys' first thought? Were you guys thinking that they were going to show the Beast? Did you think that it wasn't going to be able to be seen? And what were your thoughts just kind of like on that beginning little intro to the museum scene? Let's start with you, Vincent.
Yeah, the intro scene was pretty cool, actually. I really enjoyed how they give you that unreliable narrator that they had at the entire last episode. The first episode had that unreliable narrator because it was all done from Steven's perspective as opposed to Mark's. And you don't ever see anything that Mark does up until the very, very end of the episode, which leaves you guessing the entire time. Like, is this actually in his head the entire time? So then when they start this episode that way of showing you what the other people around him would see, because spoiler alert, but we get to the end of this, we find out that the Jackal can actually be invisible to everybody other than Steven and Mark. And so that's why it shows up, as he doesn't look like he's actually fighting anything in the museum. So we, again, are started with that unreliable narrator of, is this actually in Mark's head? And I find myself second guessing everything that happens, even throughout the rest of the episode, when they start showing things from his wife's perspective, Mark's wife's perspective. I can't remember her name. I only just got done watching the episode right now. But Layla, thank you. So when they show it from Layla's perspective, how the Jackal is invisible, I'm still second guessing. Like, is Layla in Mark and Steven's head the entire time? Is Arthur Harrow in Mark and Steven's head the entire time? Like, what is real, what isn't with this whole show?
Okay, thank you. So we just had another guest pop up on our panel, who is Noah King Bates. Welcome, Noah. If you'd like to just throw out a hello and introduce yourself, please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Noah King Bates. Avid nerd,
cosplayer, comic book reader, all the fun jazz. And Jeff asked me to hop on, and I decided I finally have a night off. Why not do it?
Hey,
Awesome.
that was the best decision you ever could have possibly fucking made in your life.
I don't know. I did have a kid, so you're right. This one for sure.
Hey, man, I had a kid too, and I actually had a kid myself, like out of my penis. Like, I gave birth. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, Noah, and welcome to the MCU's Bleeding Edge. Nice to meet you. Just to kind of catch you up a little bit, we're talking about kind of the, like, I would say first 10 minutes or so of this episode of Moon Knight. So to move on, Renee, please, your thoughts on that kind of intro scene up to Steven seeing himself on the cams.
Yeah, well, you kind of expect that's how it's going to run because, like you say, is this real? Is all this in Steven's head, or is it something that just the rest of the world's not seeing? And I sort of think that this being a really psychological, I can't see Marvel going that way because everything's fantastic. So of course, it's possible that these are two different dimensions that are kind of circling around each other, and then the body of Mark and Steven sort of bleed back and forth into it, or they're able to exist in both at the same time, but not maybe in solid form. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's an astral projection that's going back and forth. So, I mean, it remains to be seen. I'm pretty sure that that Harrow and all these people are real. I mean, at somewhere down the line, these are not his fantasies at all. That just wouldn't fit with Marvel.
Very true, very true. I would agree. JB, your thoughts, sir?
Thought it was cool, man. The way he come in there looking, and he was so serious about it with the security guy. And then the jokes the security guy's cracking up, calling him Scotty. And then he's like, yeah, and it's still Steven. I thought that was hilarious. But I kind of expected for them not to see it on film. You know what I mean? But I loved it when he's staring at the camera and he walks up to the camera, staring at the camera. And he's got that serious Mark Spector look on his face. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it set in, you was like, oh, this is for real now, it's on. But yeah, no, that was great, man. The way they set it up was just great.
Completely agree. Noah, your thoughts on basically what we were talking about was basically the beginning of the episode. Steven wakes up in his bed, jumps out of it, startled awake, still attached with the clamp around his leg. Then he goes to the museum and sees the aftermath of what happened the previous night, and basically him going up and looking at the cameras of himself. What is your take on that? And kind of like, did you expect yourself to see the Jackal on the cameras, or did you expect it to be that kind of mind game still?
So I definitely went in believing that it was going to be like he's not going to see it, but I was intrigued on if he was still going to see it, but the security guard wasn't. And they could have played it for laughs on both sides, where he still sees it and he starts to realize like maybe only I can see it type stuff, compared to the security guard cracking jokes and just being like, ah ha ha, like, dude, you're gonna get so fired and stuff like that. And I thought that was intriguing, and it brought on this whole, like, someone before me said, this whole you can't trust the narrator thing. The fact that he was able to get out with a slap on the wrist and, you just need to go see a doctor type stuff. I was very intrigued on the fact of, like, I don't know any place where you can destroy a bathroom of a museum and they're just like, oh, well, hope you take your vitamins. Goodbye. So I thought that was really, like, bonkers. And I was like, but then it brought on the fact of, like, could they have been working for Arthur, and, like, how big does the cult go compared to how big does the DID of Mark go? So that was intriguing.
Thank you. I would agree. It was very intriguing, especially that scene where basically he's getting fired and he's basically kind of talking to him like that, like, oh, get you the mental help you need. That was really interesting and intriguing as well, I thought. Jeff, your thoughts, sir?
Well, I was thinking that for a minute there was an echo, but anyways, I was thinking yeah, it was very interesting. It kind of threw me off there for a minute, but anyways, I was thinking that
You thought Coach was talking to you.
What's that? Oh, it was Khonshu?
Yeah.
It could have been. You know what? Honestly, I may have been possessed by Khonshu before. It's possible I could have been an avatar at one point. But anyways, I just wanted to mention that honestly, I was just telling Cyber before the show, I'm actually personally being mentored right now by Brie Larson and Chloe Zhao. What I'm saying? Double dragon, baby. Like, they're my personal mentors now. And so I'm on my way to success, baby. I'm all in. But anyways, enough of my personal life. Here on the Moon Knight episode and whatnot, Cyber, what exactly were we getting into exactly? I forget.
So basically, just the kind of the beginning section there, where Stephen wakes up, goes to the museum, sees the aftermath of what happened the night before, and him looking at the footage of himself.
What I really liked about this episode was I really liked how there were a lot of major scene changes, and location changes throughout the episode where they were in different places and whatnot and everything. They didn't stay in one spot, and there was a different feel to the opening. You know what I mean, of the show, which I think Cyber, again, like we talked about on our live on TikTok last night, I think that that's actually an intentional aspect that they're trying to put into the series where, for the audience, they want to kind of jumble things up a little bit when it comes to how they plan the structures of the episodes and whatnot to fit with the mental health angle and the split personality angle and whatnot. You know what I mean? They don't want things to just fit perfectly together neatly. That's why all the characters are kind of like the villain already. You don't know if he's an anti-hero or a villain or what's going on. You know what I mean? But I felt like the introduction scene was very reminiscent of episode 1. And then once we got past it, we really got into episode 2.
Agreed. Very much so. So yeah, so basically moving on from that, so like Noah was talking, they basically Stephen goes and talks to the his boss or whatever, and basically lets him know that he's fired, and if you have anything on you that belongs to the museum, please leave it. We hope you get your mental health and all that kind of stuff because of what happened with the bathroom. If you notice during the scene, he pulls objects out of his pocket, which is a key and a phone, which happens to be the phone that we saw in the first episode where he spoke to Layla, as we mentioned earlier about Layla. And basically, he gets let go and he leaves, and that's when he comes across the living statue again. So let's talk a little bit about the living statue here. We didn't really talk about that in this first episode, I feel, but this character is actually known from the actual comic books. There's been tons of Easter eggs and so forth that Disney has put out saying, this is a character that we wanted to make sure that we had in the series to kind of give you some of these Easter egg type of deals. And this happens to be the character known as Crawley. Now, he's had different types of names throughout the comic books. We're not sure exactly which Crawley this is, but he is supposed to be a version of Crawley. So, my next question for the panel is, what did you think about Crawley? What do you think about the conversation Stephen has with the living statue in this current scene that we're talking about? And were you surprised to see Crawley? Were you happy to see him? And just kind of your thoughts on the living statue at all. Starting with you, Vincent.
So what's interesting about Crawley is when I spent 2 years living in England, they actually have people just kind of hanging out around most of the large cities who do that kind of performance art. In Birmingham, I saw ones almost every time I went into like the Bull Ring area, which is like a mall inside of Birmingham. And so it was kind of cool to see him brought into the show. Now, I've never been a Moon Knight fan before this. I've never read a single Moon Knight comic, but I do see Crawley listed as like a cameo that was brought in by Disney from the comics and everything. So it's kind of a throwback into the comics, as well as paying homage to the people that do that in the streets of London and Birmingham and Manchester and whatnot. It's pretty interesting to see.
Awesome. Renee, your thoughts?
Well, likewise, I'm not even familiar at all with Crawley. I'm looking him up right now on my iPhone just to see. So yeah, I mean the idea that there's this little, or not little, I guess, but this sort of side character who's an observer. You know, he's watching. He's not really getting involved at first, and maybe won't get involved at all. But he's observing everything, and and that he's actually a live person and not a real statue. I saw him last week, and I just assumed he was a statue that was just there, and he was just whatever, being a nerd with the statue. But then we saw this episode where you could see his eyes, and of course they're human living eyes. So yeah, that was very interesting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what all goes down with Crawley.
Excellent. Thank you for that. JV, your thoughts?
Yeah, wasn't Crawley like I think that was like someone that he would go and seek advice from.
Yeah.
I think in the books. I'm not real. I mean, I kind of remember a little bit about him, but the first episode when he was sitting down there talking to him, I knew that that's what that was representing. But it looked like a bronze statue. It didn't look real. So I thought, well, he's talking to the bronze statue, and it's he's just doing that to vent. And then in this episode, he's gold. It's because it's daylight, but he's a lot brighter gold, and I could see the eyes moving, twitching back and forth. And then I seen him look over a couple of times at him, and I was expecting him to start talking back. I was waiting for that part to happen. I don't know when they'll bring Crawley back. I don't know I don't know how they'll bring him back in future episodes, but that was pretty cool. I was expecting him to talk though, but I think that's what he was. He was like somebody for him to bounce off for advice, if I remember, but it's been a long time. But no, that was a cool part though. Like I said, I was expecting to be startled.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
But it was cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I know. I'm sure a lot of people were probably thinking that too, thinking he was going to spec. But Tech's not dead in the comments here. He just basically just greenlit what you were saying there, JB. He works as a means for Steven to vomit out his thoughts and feelings to the viewer. So just like that, yeah, he's basically like kind of like his airing block, basically. Kind of for him to get rid of all the thoughts in his head, basically. So yeah, I totally agree there. He's totally that. Noah, your thoughts on Crawley, sir?
Yeah, so Crawley, I am a little more versed in the comics. I'm currently reading one of the Moon Knights right now, and he's in it, but it's while Mark is in a mental hospital, and Crawley's one of the other inmates in it. So it's a really interesting to see him in this. With this show, and as I've watched this second episode, I'm trying to gauge who could be real and who could not be. And compared to what you would believe, I believe Crawley is one of the only few real people. I think we're going to get a very Fight Club-esque type ending, where we learn more people are in his head than we originally thought.
Okay.
But I do like Crawley. It was cool to have someone who is human but is represented as not human to show how lonely Steven is. Like, yeah, Crawley's clearly a person, but he's pretending to be an inanimate object, and that's the only person that Steven can talk to, is a guy pretending to be an inanimate object, someone who's legit being a statue, because no one else would listen to him. But this guy has to sit there and like has to like only listen. He can't talk back. So it really shows how lonely Steven is, while also showing that he has somebody.
Nice. Thank you. I would agree there with that on that. Mr. TrueKnowledge, your thoughts, sir?
Well, Crawley in his like very defenseless like posture, state and whatnot would not do well in prison, like especially in the shower. You know what I'm saying? Like it would not be good for him. You know what I mean? It would be rough. Just to be clear, definitely not good for him. But either way, very interesting. I guess character, if you want to call it a character. You know what I mean? It just adds to the entire mystique and like noir like dynamic of the series. Like I don't want to say it adds to the mental health angle really, because does it? I mean, does it connect? Like I'm not sure. Does it?
I wouldn't say that it does.
I mean, I think it's more like of the mystical. You know what I mean, or whatever. So there's a lot of different themes and like narratives that are being thrown around in this series. You know what I'm saying? Which is part of the reason why I think it's being so well received, is because it's not just the fact that it's Moon Knight and it's new Marvel content and we didn't get any for fucking 3 months or whatever. So people are like, 5 o'clock free crack giveaway type shit going on. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, there's something to the whole structure of Moon Knight. And it's very interesting. And in a way, if you think about it, depending on how they do the whole series, it's almost like a contrast to WandaVision. Because, like, it's going in a different direction, that's beyond, like, Blade or Ghost Rider. You know what I'm saying? Or, like, The Punisher or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, where, they basically just, kill people and fuck shit up and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, deliver justice and shit and whatnot. They're pretty, like, black and white about shit. With this series, again, nothing makes sense at times. Like, you don't know who the hell's who. Like, even the secondary characters, you question who the hell they are. So, like, I mean, at that point, I don't want to say it's going to end up being a puzzle, because I don't think it'll go that way. But I will say that, coming off of what Noah said, like I said last week, I feel like they are going to eventually unveil that he has more personalities that are there, that he's going with and whatnot. And I don't want to skip too far ahead and whatnot, but when he donned that, like, weird white suit later on in the episode, that actually is, from the comics, one of his, like, personalities.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I think what you bring up some, I think you're seeing how this is different, and I think you're right, because most of the Marvel, they're either done as action or sci-fi, and which is basically, you have action and sci-fi.
Or humor, Renee, or humor, right?
Yeah. But this one is what would be called, if you're looking at a movie genre, it would be a psychological thriller. And this would be what guys like Hitchcock dealt with, and things like that. But they're using the comic book tropes rather than using like what Hitch or some. You know what I mean? If you think back toward those movies, it's like this is all inside this guy's head. And Vertigo was like that. That whole movie was all inside Scotty's head. Was what he's seeing real? Was it not? And back and forth. He couldn't make sense of it. So I think this Moon Knight is sort of trying to go in that direction, which is, like you say, a very different direction for them.
Thank you for that, Renee. That insight there. That was very, that's a good point, most definitely. So as we move on from Crawley, so basically, Steven goes and beds to Crawley a little bit before it moves on. Then after it moves on from Crawley, that key and phone I was talking about earlier, Steven thinks about, he's going to go check out what this key is to, and he goes to basically find that it's to a storage unit. And he goes into the storage unit and basically finds which storage unit it is. and opens it up and goes in and finds some stuff in there. And it happens to be all of Mark Spector's stuff, from his passport to money to weapons, and also the scarab that we have seen in the previous episode. Which I find very interesting, that when he pulls out the scarab and he's holding it, it almost turns into like a compass. And I thought that whatever they did for the animation there was really cool. And I'm not sure if that was CGI or not, or if that was actually like one of those magnet things. But I wanted to throw it around the panel. What did you think? How do you think what they did there to use to make the scarab do what it did to look like that compass? Do you think it was CGI? Do you think it was a practical effect? What were your thoughts on how that looked to you? Starting with you, Vincent.
If it were me directing this episode, I would have used a combination of practical and CGI. I would have had a magnetized, like, levitating toy object that he could have held out, but it wouldn't have had the wings. And the wings wouldn't have been able to expand and then start fluttering up and down and everything like that. And so the wings would have been CGI. That's the way I would have handled it as someone who has worked on a movie set in the past. However, I get the feeling that this was done 100% CGI.
All right, thank you. How about you, Renee? What do you think?
Oh golly, I couldn't really comment on it with any rationality. It looked good to me, whatever it was. I bought into it. I love the scarab. I think it's very, very beautiful. Very elegant piece. You haven't really seen anything like that with Marvel. They tend to go like more either science fiction-y or something. That really kind of that style sort of speaks to me. And speaking of style, my friend here, Lady Death Lady, who stands in for me on camera, she has on a lovely Dior 1956 gown. She's very elegant, and she just wanted to show that off for you.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Lady Death. Awesome to see you. What a wonderful dress. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And JB, your thoughts, sir?
You know, in episode 1, if you remember, when he was standing out after he meets Ethan Hawke out, and they're in that village, and he's trying to take the scarab from him, and they flash around, he shows some fighting and stuff, and then you see a part where there's like 4 or 5 dudes, and they're all laid out, blood everywhere, and he's got his hand held up, and the scarab's in his hand. You know, the wings were out on the scarab then. You know, and so I remember seeing that part, and then when they show it in the storage thing, and it flutters up, you know, and he's sitting there holding, he's going around, he's like, it's like a compass, and he's like, but it's not pointing true north. You know, that was cool. But I will say this much: if it's CGI, they did a good job on it. I don't know how else you would do that, unless, you know, it's a magnetized deal, or maybe like a small drone type thing. But I really don't know how else they would do that. I mean, but that was really cool the way they did it. But then also at the beginning of this, when he's on his way to that storage room, we can now officially say that Marvel is starting to put in these deliberate QR codes in these episodes. They never did that before now. So now you have to spot those QR codes. You know, I scanned that one, got Werewolf by Night 33 right off the bat. You know, there's several little things like that in this episode that I've noticed that, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about later on. But yes, definitely there's a lot going on. It's pretty cool, man. I enjoyed it.
Wow, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, that's why I brought up the scarab scene a little bit here, because I think that it was partially practical effects and partially CGI. Just from how it looked too real to be a fully CGI product. So that's why I wanted to mention it to the group here, because I think it was something really interesting and something that, you know, probably not a lot of people are going to talk about. Noah, your thoughts on the scarab compass, sir?
So, as much as I would like to say that it was probably practical, because I, as a fabricator, cosplayer, actor, all that fun jazz, I would love for it to be practical. But Marvel, for as much money as they like to throw around, is cheap by the end of the day, and that's why so much is CGI now. It's because it is cheaper to do CGI than it is to do practical effects for certain things. So as much as I would like to say that they really got like a magnet and they did something really artistic with it, they probably just CGI'd it.
All right, thank you. TrueKnowledge, your thoughts, sir?
Well, it's not just cheaper. It's cleaner. It's more efficient. There's less mistakes and shit like that. No, you know what I mean? Like, that's the flip side. You know what I'm saying? When you go with live action and you're dealing with actual physical, tangible costumes and shit like that and all that, there's more mistakes. You know what I mean? But, like, I get where you're coming from, though. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, Cyber, could you repeat the question?
Basically, what were your thoughts on that, on the scarab itself, that scene showing it levitating and everything? Did you think it was practical effects at all? Do you think it's all CGI? What were your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm sorry. I went to the 5 o'clock free crack giveaway earlier today, so, like, my ears are a little messed up. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, I'm not really sure. I mean, I can't call it. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I'd be lying if I said I really knew, what was what with that. All I'll say about it is basically just that really quickly, it just adds another layer, to the episode and whatnot and everything. And, I don't know. I don't want to have, massive high hopes for the series. I don't want to get too, I don't want to get too into it to where I start thinking it's going to be like Loki again or whatever, and we're going to get episode after episode that are just better and better and shit like that, because I feel like with these Disney Plus series, what we've seen a lot is that eventually there is a drop off here and there, so Moon Knight's probably going to have that at some point. It could be episode 5, you don't know, it could be 4, you know what I mean, where there's a little lull or whatever, you know what I mean, but typically it always happens to even the best. But I feel like, honestly, as an audience, member, this episode of Moon Knight, there's so many elements going on and there's so many intangibles that it's confusing at times.
Okay. Awesome. I can see there being that possibility of things being kind of confusing most definitely.
Oh, yeah, especially when you're stoned as fuck, too.
That doesn't help, I don't think, but but that's great. Anyway, so moving on. So while he's in there after the compass thing, all of a sudden he starts basically seeing Kanju, and Kanju basically starts following him, and saying after he has this conversation with Mark Spector, because Mark Spector starts talking to him while he's in the storage shed. So they have a conversation, and, Steven's like, no, you can't have the body. I don't, I need to keep going and all this kind of good stuff. And so he starts to try to leave, saying, no, you're never going to have control of my body again. And that's when Khonshu comes in and he starts having all these, seeing him and stuff like that through the corridors, stuff like that. And he finally gets outside and he starts running, and that's when he runs into Layla for the first time. And basically he hops onto a bike with her, and they jet off to his apartment. And so then while they're in the apartment, they kind of have him and Layla have a conversation. She basically says, why are you still doing this act? Mark, where have you been? Why haven't you called me? I'm your wife, which was an interesting little twist there, her being his wife. And basically, they kind of have this conversation a little bit about things, and he's still trying to kind of explain, he doesn't know who she is, and that's Mark Spector and all this kind of stuff. And it just kind of gets a little, they kind of talk about things that have similarities and stuff like that, which is a really fun, interesting scene. So my next question for the panel is, what were your thoughts on the introduction to Layla? And what do you think, how do you think the actress is doing so far? Did you think that she was a good choice? Do you think she did a good job? And just overall, what was your thoughts on this introduction to the Layla character? Starting with you, Vincent.
So first, I want to say, Noah, your pitties are really cute.
Thank
Those
you.
are some cute dogs, man. That being said, moving on. So I think the actress was fine. I think she did a good job. I feel like I could be wrong about this, but for some reason I'm getting that she's a British person doing an American accent. I'm not sure exactly why, but I could be wrong about that.
The irony.
Yeah, the irony in it. Speaking of accents, I find Mark Spector's British accent to be really funny because nobody in England talks like that except for Ricky Gervais. So I think he's doing a Ricky Gervais impression the entire show. And then there's two things in this episode that I find very coincidental. And the first one is the guy that runs the storage locker remembering Mark's face. If you work in retail or in health insurance or anything like that, and you see 150 people a day, you're not going to remember every face that comes in. And so that seemed very coincidental to me. The second part is that he trips, falls over, almost gets run over, and the car that almost runs him over, or in this case, a little scooter motorcycle thing, was his wife's vehicle. And yeah, they kind of explain it by saying, I was tracking your phone. But if you're tracking his phone, you see him running down that hallway or you see him coming from that area, you're not going to be blowing past him going 50 miles an hour down the road, or 75 kilometers per hour or whatever it converts into in England. So I was a little turned off by those two situations, having it be that coincidental. But that's just because I've been watching TV and movies for a very long time, and I noticed those sort of we have to explain this, let's just throw in this one line to make it a little easier to explain type of situations.
All right, thank you. Renee, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not sold on her being who she says she is. I think she may be an operative of some. She could be with, more not necessarily S.H.I.E.L.D., but you know what I'm saying. Somebody connected more to that, more to the what's going on here, bureaucracies and whatnot. So we'll find out on that. I mean, as far as the actress herself, I mean, she came across as pretty generic. I don't nothing really stands out about her. She's we'll see how it goes. So really can't comment on it too much right now.
I would give her the fucking Oscar compared to Brie Larson and Captain Marvel.
I think you pretty much, Jeff, you would give anybody Oscar that's other than Brie Larson. Thank you for that, Renee. Thank you. That great
You're
thoughts.
welcome.
JB, your thoughts, sir?
I think, what's her name? Calamari? Calamari? I think that's how to say her name. Anyway, yeah. I mean, this is early. Outside of what we saw today, we've only had a voice. So, I mean, she held her own. I think she's definitely his wife. I think she was part of what's going on in Egypt. We'll find that out further down the road. But I mean, she did a good job with what she had to do. I mean, it's not Oscar worthy or Academy worthy or anything like that, but she did what she was supposed to do. Somebody's wanting attention.
Give me attention, kitty.
But I liked it. I mean, I thought it was cool. I think that's his wife. Okay. And I think she we got to remember the phones were in the room in the flat up in the wall, if you remember. Mm-hmm. So those phones were put away and probably turned off. He didn't turn that phone on until he retrieved that out. So, and she was the name primarily on that phone, and then there was one other one which was Duchamp's name on there. So she's been trying to get a hold of him, so that it had a pretty good little backstory to it. But I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought she did good. She held her own.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like everyone says, it's not an Oscar-worthy performance.
Yeah, no.
I thought just like Renee said, I thought she was a little generic at first, but I feel she did what she needed to for the scenes, most
Yeah,
definitely.
it's early. It's early.
Yeah, it's early. Noah, your thoughts, sir?
So the way that I've been really looking at this show, and really, Vince, I think you did a really good job of pointing out I've worked in retail a lot. I don't remember every person who walks in, so I'm starting to focus on the fact that we are listening to someone who doesn't know how to tell a story in the terms of we can't trust Mark or Steven. I don't think I wouldn't be shocked if Layla doesn't exist.
True.
I mean, we have not seen her. The one time she was getting ready to interact with other people, she disappears out the window, and he lies and says that he's alone. And the next time we see the time in which she could have stopped the scarab from getting into Arthur's hands when the homeless guy picked it up at the end, she doesn't. She just watches from a distance. The fact that she almost ran him over instead of calling Mark's name. Like, all of these things, she keeps popping up and only interacting with him. And and the fact that we have someone who does not understand his own reality, and this perfect woman shows up that he falls in love with, and she just happens to save him. It's almost too cookie cutter, and that's what makes it as far as the actress's portrayal of her. I think she's doing a fine job. Like Jeff said, it's really, really early. You can't really gauge it. She is giving off generic female action hero. You could have told me that her scenes were out of the new Uncharted movie, and I would believe you. It's there. She's a cutscene almost. But as term for the long goal, that's more where I'm putting my money on.
Hey, let's be careful about these compliments with Vincent and everything and whatnot, because, I mean, he's getting a lot of attention here and shit, and I can't be having motherfuckers outshining me and everything on my show. You know what I'm saying? So
You're both pretty. Calm down. You're both pretty.
Okay. Jeff, Mr. True Knowledge, your thoughts, sir, please.
Oh, man. Basically, I guess, again, it was very generic. It really was. Like, it was flat, like, bottom line generic. Like, I mean, there was nothing really to work with, to evaluate, you know what I'm saying? Like, in any way, in an individual way or distinct way, you know what I mean? So I feel like, I mean, at least she looks different, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure, like, of what, makeup she is or whatever and whatnot. She looks mixed. You know what I mean? Like, she's got some nice looking skin, I can tell you that. Basically, I feel like she'll become integral over the series plays out more and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? When Mark really, like, becomes in control. You know what I mean? Like, because at the end of the day, what's his name? The villain. Why am I struggling with his name?
Arthur.
Arthur. Whatever, like, he ends up being capable of doing and whatnot overall, when he gets with his god and shit and everything, like, it's gonna boil down to, like, them needing, like, real deal Moon Knight to fight that shit. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, Steven's not going to be capable of, like, understanding how to, like, be Moon Knight. Mark Spector is the Avatar. You know what I mean? Like, he's the Avatar. Steven is not a part of it. He doesn't even know how to fucking, like, put the suit on or make the suit, like, generate, and I think that's where it's going to get interesting, because when they throw another personality into the mix, that's going to be sort of like a little, even like, even more trickery, like with the series and whatnot as things play out, because again, in the comics, he has like 3 full different personalities, right? So they're already doing some different stuff from the comics right now, but I think when it boils down to it, they will try to end up doing something in that direction. So it'll be interesting to see as things play out when they decide to flush out another personality out, like into the dynamic. You know, as far as the actress goes, let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, hey, she could end up being a highlight by the end of the series. You know what I'm saying? Like, you never know. Is she going to be a Sylvie and Loki? No, fuck no.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Anyway, so as we move on, so after they have their conversation, all of a sudden somebody shows up at Steven's door. Knock on the door, Mr. Stephen Grant, you there? He's like, hold on, I'm coming. And he opens the door, and there's these two people that are some sort of agents. And they come in, and they search the place, and basically end up arresting Stephen. And he thinks that this is about the toilet at the museum. And ends up, you find out that they're actually followers of Harrow, Mr. Ethan Hawke. And basically they take him back to Ethan Hawke, and him and Ethan Hawke kind of have like a conversation, and Ethan Hawke basically explains to him, that, is Kanju talking to you and all this kind of stuff, and that he used to be the former avatar for Kanju. And they have this lengthy conversation, is he saying this in your head? Is he saying these things in your head and stuff? And you're basically saying, oh, I'm making all these people prosperous and all this kind of stuff. Basically all traveling down to him trying to get the Scarab again back from Mark and Steven and basically from Moon Knight. And so they have the conversation, and they're doing all this stuff, and then that's when all of a sudden out of nowhere Layla shows up at this compound. Going back to what everyone has said, kind of like how does she know where to go and all this kind of stuff. It's weird and like, kind of going back to, is she really who she says she is kind of deal. And basically have that all happening going on. And, basically they have that craziness going on, and they're talking about all these kind of stuff like that. And, once again, like I said, Harrow's trying to get the Scarab back. So my question for you guys, for the panel there is, between that scene from Steven being taken from his apartment to that whole conversation with Ethan Hawke's character, what were your thoughts on that little span of time? Did you find anything interesting that happened between that time frame? Did you find anything that, stood out, or anything that you felt was that could be used further on in the series in the next 4 episodes? So starting with you, Vincent.
Some of the best written villains of all time are written to be complex enough to make you think, are they actually doing what's right? And I think given his motive for this, Arthur Harrow could be one of those great villains of all time.
Good call. Good call, Vincent.
Have you ever seen the anime Death Note? His motives in this are very similar to Light's motives in Death Note, where it's, if I kill bad people who do bad things, or specifically like beforehand, or this is also very similar to Minority Report. If we kill somebody before they have the chance to do the bad thing, and we create a utopia type society, is that actually a bad thing in and of itself? Wanted, another movie, very similar. So you have all of these movies where the motive is, if we create this utopia by killing off bad people, are we ourselves the bad person? And that's where Arthur's motives are. And I think that really makes him intriguing. And I'm compelled by him. He does a really great job, Ethan Hawke, in this, and in creating a cult of personality, as well as creating an occult. So I'm very fascinated by him and his character, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes.
And bouncing off of that really quick with Vincent, and that's a really strong contribution on that, Vincent. Really, well done. But I'm just fucking with you. I already told you a minute ago you're not allowed to get complimented again during the show. But anyways, honestly, just the way he's playing he's playing the character is outstanding.
Oh yeah,
he's getting the best out of it.
Very much so. Very much so. Renee, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to sort of dovetail off Vanspock here. He is a very, maybe one of the most real characters, aside from all the comic book accoutrement that surrounds him, because these men and women, some of them few, very real. This is Jim Jones. This is Waco. This stretches back through our history. This is witch hunting. It's McCarthyism. It's the Inquisitions. It's people who strap on bombs and truly believe that if they walk in here and blow up the school bus of children or whatever, that they're doing a really good thing. We mistake that these people believe that they are evil. They know they're evil. They enjoy their evil. They don't. They think they are good. They think they're doing good. And I think that's so. You're right. This is going to be if they go all the way with him. I don't know if they will, but I think it'll be an interesting way to go. I think there's a parallel here to I think it's called in Marvel called the Universal Church of Truth, which is attached to a similar theme here of a goddess who is totally pure, totally good, and her mission is to rid the universe of all evil people so that there will only be good people. As you see them milling about in Arthur Harrow's sort of cult area there, they're very happy, very peaceful. They're enjoy helping each other. They're living, sharing and whatnot, the utopian life, as he says. And of course, that's usually always an illusion that's used to just rein people in to satisfy one man's ego in the real world. So we'll see where this goes.
Most truly. Totally agree. Yeah, I totally see that. As soon as I saw Ethan Hawke's character in the beginning scene in the first episode, first thing that came to mind was Jonestown to me, or Waco. And that totally, I get that whole aspect of what you're talking about there, exactly. JB, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, Ethan Hawke said in an interview that he did a deep study of David Koresh, and that this character is based a lot off of David Koresh in Waco. And you can see a lot of that too. I mean, but he's a psychological villain. That's what's cool. Now, the scenes that we're talking about, are we talking about where he's in the car with the so-called detectives?
Correct.
On his way to the police station.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some valuable information there because they start looking on the computer at what he did in Egypt, with the archaeologist, which Layla played a part in that in the comics. So, yeah, they went deep into that, and that's important. And then when he got to the village, I guess, and he's in the car, and the girl throws the ball up against the car, and he turns around. And of course, he sees then that he's now in the cult. He's with that group, and we see Arthur walk up. Which Arthur's a one-issue character, a one-issue villain. He was only in one issue of the comics, so they're really doing good at keeping him interesting because he was not that interesting in the comics. So when he takes him out of the car and he's unlocking his handcuffs, there's where the psychological stuff starts taking place, because we start seeing Khonshu talking to Mark or Steven and telling him kill him. And at the same time, Arthur is saying the exact same thing that Khonshu is saying to Steven. So which is, that's just awesome. The whole deal was psychological. And then him taking him into the cafeteria there and meeting everybody, and he's like, the food's free, by the way, and all the things he was saying was just really, really deep psychological. He was breaking him down, and that's what was just cool. That whole scene was awesome. But no, Ethan Hawke had said that he really looked into David Koresh big time. And you can see it when he's talking to Steven. When they're sitting down at the table and he's talking, you can see it in his eyes and everything. It was awesome. They both of them did a great job. But no, that was awesome. There was a lot of little tidbits in there that I liked.
I saw an article too as well, or an interview with Ethan Hawke talking about him studying David Koresh too as well. So yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Noah, your thoughts, sir?
So I really am loving his Arthur's journey and the mental capacity of a serial killer or a cult leader, because that's what he's giving. He was being a textbook cultist by telling Steven everything he wanted to hear. And what I really enjoyed is he's the only one who notes Steven's DID, but just as if it is like you have a lot of voices in your head, and he plays it off just like someone who finally understands. Like, he's not calling him crazy, he's not calling him mentally ill. He's just stating, "Hey, you have a lot of voices. I know one of the voices," and the fact that he just could bounce off everything that Khonshu was saying, and in that moment, the director, the writers made Arthur the sane one. They made Arthur the voice of reason. The good guy is the God telling you to murder this man right in front of you, and the other guy's like, "Hey, we're vegan too. You want some lentil soup? Sit down, let's talk about life." Like, they make him sound so rational that us as the watchers are Steven in that moment. This guy sounds rational. This guy sounds like a hero. And it's not until Steven figures it out that we can start to see him as the villain again. And it's when he's asking him, "So you guys would kill kids? You guys are going to you choose?" And that's when we can slowly start to pedal back and see Arthur as a villain again. But I thought that the direction of making him, he had us all for a split second, by the way that they directed him, drinking the Kool-Aid. He sounded like the hero. It sounded like Khonshu was terrible. Like, this God is telling him to smite this dude in front of him. So I really love those scenes. That was probably my highlight of the episode outside of Mr. Knight later on. But Ethan Hawke does a phenomenal job, and the interaction between him and Oscar Isaac Steven was so good.
Agreed, very much so. I think both Ethan Hawke and Oscar Isaacs is doing an amazing job with their characters. They're making them very entertaining. They're making them very sophisticated, and it's keeping the show really interesting. So I completely agree with that. Mr. True Knowledge, your thoughts, sir?
Everybody pretty much covered it already. So let's just move on.
Okay, all right. So no thoughts. All right, gotcha. So after they have that conversation, and Layla shows up, they start to run, and right before that, Ethan Hawke mentions that his staff that he has, Kane, has the power of the god that he is basically working for right now. Whatever's left of that god, there's a little bit of that power left in his cane. And he uses that cane to summon another jackal. And that's when a giant jackal fight sequence ensues. So basically the last 20 minutes of the episode, we get this great fight sequence with the jackal, and we get to see basically Steven and Mark kind of take turns a little bit fighting this jackal. And all of a sudden, basically there's a point where, he's like, "Okay, take over and let me summon Moon Knight," basically. And that's when we get that white suit that we were all talking about. Because if you recall, in promotional ads and stuff like that, we saw this interesting looking Moon Knight look that was different than the actual Moon Knight, where it shows him in a suit, in this white suit. And so basically we find out that Steven's like, they said I'm supposed to wear a suit. Why not have a fancy suit? And basically they're saying that Steven's the one that conjured up this suit. That's why it looks like that. So during that, he's battling the jackal and everything, and we see him fighting and stuff like that. Layla comes in and tries to help, and she keeps getting beat up by the jackal. And of course, once again, just like on the video camera, nobody else sees the jackal but Moon Knight himself. And so we're seeing him basically fighting air this whole fighting sequence, basically at the perspective of people. So basically, this fight keeps ensuing, and finally until Mark actually takes over and basically kills the Beast. So after he kills the Beast, this Jackal, he starts having a conversation with Steven now, who is now the Image now versus Mark being the Image, and they have kind of a conversation. So before we move on to that portion, what were your thoughts on that fight sequence and that new suit, and just your thoughts on that whole entire sequence? Did you find it entertaining? Did you enjoy it? Do you think they could have done things differently? Did you think they did it right? Was there anything you didn't like about it? Starting with you, Vincent.
I love the Moonlight suit. I love the Mr. Knight suit. They're just gorgeous, gorgeous costumes. And I hope to see some people cosplaying those at future conventions that I can get pictures with and stuff, because there's no way I'm going to be able to make anything that cool. The fight scene was interesting. I like the aspect of the juxtaposition between the person who's just learning how to be a superhero and then immediately turning into somebody who is very veteran at being a superhero, who actually knows what the hell they're doing, and seeing how quick the fight goes once Mark takes over, as opposed to how long it's stretched out when it's just Steven and Layla fighting the Jackal by themselves. I'm also thinking about this scene as a filmmaker and how they did all of the interesting movement with an invisible being there. And like, were they using like wire works? Did they have somebody in a green screen costume that they had moving people around this way and that way? What exactly were they doing? And on the one hand, it could be very easy and cost effective, excuse me, to have people being moved around by like wire works and somebody in green screen, as opposed to creating a whole other CGI character for most of those scenes. All you have to do is remove the green screen, as opposed to creating a whole new character on top of the removed green screen. And so that probably helped not Mark's, but Disney's pocketbook just a little bit during that scene. Very interesting camera work and wire work, and just beautifully done fight scene, in my opinion.
Awesome, thank you. And before we move on to you, Renee, I just wanted to mention Tech's Not Dead Again in the comments here. He's mentioned a couple times, a couple things. He said, I thought Haro reacted to her when she showed up at his place with the Scarab. I could be wrong. And I do agree with you, Tech, that yes, I do believe he did react when he saw Layla with the Scarab. Okay. I saw the reaction to that. And then also he mentioned he liked how Steven took a moment to say how good he looked once he saw his reflection. That was funny, and I totally agree. That was super hilarious when him and Mark are talking a little bit after he summons that suit, and he's like, "Yeah, I thought it looked good," and stuff like that. I totally agree. I thought that was funny too. So moving on to you, Renee, what were your thoughts on the fight sequence?
Oh yeah, they hardly ever have bad fight sequences. I mean, I'm not like Vanspock. I'll just let it roll over me. I don't try to, analyze what they've done or anything. But I mean, it is interesting. I understand that. But yeah, the whole the Mr. Knight suit, I thought that was a good contrast. You're starting to think, going back to the psychological idea, and just watching that scene, how it played out with back and forth, and then finally at the end of the scene, it looks like where he's there with that little pyramid-like mirror thing. We see that Mark has taken over the body now, and Steven is the one that's going to have to be begging to be let back in, and so we see the contrast of how Steven is the exact opposite of Mark. Whatever Mark is, Steven is not. Steven's sort of a coward. He's shy. He's standoffish. He's not very smart. He's juvenile like. Even though he's studious, he likes his books and things like that, and he likes being in museums and away from people. And then Mark is dynamic guy who's just out and just has all the confidence in the world and everything. Mark doubts himself much more than Steven really doubts himself. I don't think Steven doubts his goodness. Mark doubts his very much. And so he needs to connect with the good part of himself, which is Steven.
Very much so. Thank you. JV, your thoughts, sir?
Oh man, that whole scene was awesome. Where he starts fighting. I mean, that the whole thing was cool. I mean, but I really liked seeing when he starts fighting and goes he's following Layla up the stairs, and there was a part where he's running up the stairs behind her, and the camera drifts down, and you can see his feet going up, and his feet are already mummied. They've got the straps around his feet as he's running up the steps. So it's almost like he's trying to get it to switch, but it's not happening for him. And then they get inside that room, and of course, they start breaking down. And he's like, "Oh my God, I'm locked in the magician's cave." Just the humor was hilarious and all that. But when he busts out the window with the jackal, and of course he changes as he does the hero landing. That I don't know if people caught that or not, but that was the hero landing, and he held it for about 2 seconds, and then that was it. And then of course he jumps up and he's like, "Where did you get this Colonel Sanders outfit from?" I mean, all the jokes, the humor in there was just awesome. But then let's see, in that scene, is that where he gets hit with the car?
Yes.
And then, all right. So he gets hit with the cars and he's running to the bus, right? They do that shot from overhead where the camera's looking down and he's sprawled out on the pavement and you see the top of the bus. If you look real close at the top of the bus, there's a writing on top of the bus that says WBN, and then it says 0032, which is Werewolf by Night, issue 32. So they put little Easter eggs like that in there, and I noticed that. That's what I was saying earlier, is they're doing a lot of things in these that they haven't done before. I don't know if they're just doing this because it's an obscure character and they're wanting people to look at certain things so that they can see, get a gist of what's happening, which I thought was cool. I mean, it's just little things that's doing. But then when he finally talks to Mark in that window of the bus and he looks at him and says, "Turn around and look at everything," and he sees how scared the people are and everything, and he's like, "Why don't you let me take control?" And he's like, "Okay, I'll let you take control for now." I knew right then that it was on. And then, we get into the next scenes, which are just unreal. But no, that was great, man. But I thought that was a cool little Easter egg.
Totally. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I did not think about that. I do know that this is not something new, that very newish, because Marvel has done this before in other films and other shows. Right. But yeah, definitely thanks for pointing that out. So, Mr. Noah, you are getting ready to leave, so we will have you give your thoughts, and then we will send you off, sir. So what were your thoughts, sir, on the fight sequence?
So, like I said, I love Mr. Knight as a Moon Knight fan. They do change him quite a bit in this, but I like where they're going with it. I like the way that they're giving each persona, each alter of Steven and Mark, their own set of abilities. I really like that, which is a lot more new Moon Knight, or even like Crazy Jane from Doom Patrol, where each alter has a different power. I very much enjoy that. I love the interactions. I made a Facebook status right after watching the episode where it was like, Steven and Mark are what Eddie and Venom wish they were, because the interaction between, first of all, Oscar Isaac acting off of Oscar Isaac is better than any Vision versus White Vision I've ever seen. But the way that he is acting and the way that he can be both the symbol of hope but also being the scared little boy at the same time was really good. And Jeff, you hit a really good point when you said the moment where he tells him to turn around and to look. and the Jackal is just causing mayhem behind it, and he realizes, okay, I can't play hero, I have to be a hero, and I can't do that right now. And he gives it over to Mark, and Mark takes the Jackal out like a real like a superhero does, and then we have that beautiful scene afterwards of them arguing, even though they did just work. It's so interesting to watch these two dynamic alters fight against each other when they're still fighting for the same goal. It's that whole. It's so intriguing, and I really think that they do a good job. My ex has DID, so any form of media of DID is really it's intriguing to me, because someone that I love and someone that I care about has this issue. So to watch it be portrayed in this, compared to Split, compared to
Noah, did she have? I don't mean to don't take this the wrong way. Did she have like a sexual addiction at all with one of her personalities?
Not any of the ones that I did. So,
Okay,
who knows?
no, because I've come across a couple of women before with the same situation, and they were like they had personalities that were complete sex addicts.
Well, they are sexual alters, and that is a common thing through some people with DID. But as in terms of Steven and Mark and the way that they portray the alters and wanting to be the host, who is the front person, who is the person who runs the body or runs the system. A lot of DID consider their alters and everyone inside of systems. So that internal struggle, I know that she fought with that for a while, and I know a lot of people with DID struggle with that. So they're hitting a lot of really good mental issues without anyone really knowing the impact that it has, and seeing it on screen. It's different knowing that they're portraying it in such a way that I can finally understand what she was going through. So I think that is probably one of the best highlights in terms of Marvel, period, whether it be for Moon Knight or just in general. The fact that they are hitting on a mental illness that's not well known or well documented, and they are making it so that way hopefully people learn about it.
Well, when I smoke crack, I actually experience similar situations.
Well, you choose to do that. That is you deciding to go do that. Sadly, people with DID, they can't. It's just they wake up and they're tied to a bed, and not in the fun, kinky way that we all wish for.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I'll take a DOD chick over a bipolar black chick any day, man. I'll tell you right now. Watch out.
Crazy, Jeff. Anyways, so Noah, so you have to leave. Was there anything you would like to plug before you leave, sir?
No. Oh, so I am a part of another podcast that I'm the co-host for called Radioactive Paper Cuts. Please, we do fan castings, we do deep dives into mostly DC, but we do touch on Marvel stuff here and there, but we are very much, we just started our monthly book club where we read Batman the Imposter. So if you haven't, it's a Black Label, fantastic, but jump over there. I am on social media not very well, but please follow my cosplay.
Noah, what about your new show that you're eventually going to come out with?
Yeah, so that's right now it's with Radioactive Paper Cuts. Some of the episodes that I've done are on Radioactive Paper Cuts. So that's there. And then my cosplay page is King Bait Cosplay, KINGBATES, my two last names. Cosplay. I dress up like Ed from Good Burger, as well as Black Panther and a bunch of other fun people. Hopefully I'll have a Mr. Knight by the time of Grand Rapids Comic-Con, who knows? But that's that. I have work in the morning, sadly, so I have to get out of here.
All right, well, thank you for coming on, sir. You were greatly welcomed here, and we appreciate your feedback. You have a great night, and definitely check out his podcast, people.
Night, Noah.
Good to see you again, brother.
Good to see you.
All right, so moving on. To finish off that question, Mr. True Knowledge, your thoughts on that whole situation there, sir, that fight sequence?
Well, I mean, honestly, the fight sequence wasn't really a passage of the episode that really, like, I delved very deeply into. You know what I mean? It was very quick. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there wasn't as much intrinsic value to it, like the other parts of the episode that I really was like really into, you know, to where I analyzed it very deeply. I feel like, whatever you want to call that, that Jackal character or whatever and whatnot, you know, they did an okay job with that. It wasn't great. It could have been better. I think, you know what I'm saying? Like it maybe could have looked better. It looked a little bit less authentic at times for me. But then again, you don't know what the hell's going on. You know, like with the series, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know what the creatures are. I mean, you know, like, look, we're dealing with fucking Khonshu here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Khonshu is one of the goddamn elder gods. You know what I'm saying? Of like Marvel. Like he existed before the Big Bang. You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, he's an elder god. Like, he's the equivalent of a celestial, essentially. So, I mean, you know, like, he's that powerful. His dichotomy is that he needs the fucking avatar to do his shit. That's how it works. You know, like, that's his deal. But he's massively powerful. And Moon Knight is very powerful. I mean, Moon Knight is pretty nasty. What, like, you know, when Mark Spector's running the show. As far as the scene went, it was okay. You know, I loved seeing, like, the full Moon Knight costume. It was great. Really enjoyed it. Looked great. Can't get enough of it.
Awesome. Excellent. So after that sequence ends, like I said, basically Mark is now control of the body, and him and Steven have a talk in a mirror, and basically they have a heated argument, talking and back and forth, and then Mark basically stomps out the glass, which we saw in the trailer, and then that's when basically Khonshu pops up and starts having a conversation with Mark himself, and basically saying this and that and stuff like that. And basically, you're in servitude to me. You got to do this. If you don't forget that, if you were to not be my avatar anymore after your request is fulfilled, you know who I want to go after, which is Layla. Mark doesn't want that to happen, and so basically, Mark realizes that he lost the scarab, and basically we go to a cutscene and it shows this person that's where the Haru's group is, picks it up, and Haru gets it from him. And then we also see in the background, all of a sudden, who pops up? Layla sees that Haru has the scarab now on her little motorcycle. So once again, questioning kind of who she is. And basically, after that, Khonshu and Mark are having their conversation some more. And, basically, we need to move on to the next phase, Khonshu's like, and he's like, okay. And all of a sudden, when Mark wakes back up, he's all of a sudden in Egypt. So, my final question for the episode. What were your thoughts of Mark all of a sudden waking up in Egypt? And what were your thoughts on Khonshu's overall look, I should say? And just your final thoughts on the episode. Starting with you, Vincent.
Well, we knew from promotional things that they were going to go to Egypt sooner rather than later. I didn't expect it to be at the very end of the second episode that they would show up there. I expected it like 5 or 6 for them to go to Egypt, and that's be where they end the whole series, at least the first season of it. But my overall thoughts on Moon Knight thus far are that I'm a little bit confused about certain things. And maybe they'll explain this a little bit later, or maybe there's just certain things that I haven't quite caught up on yet. But what I'm most confused about is who existed first, Mark or Steven? And when did
Mark
the other
one?
You think Mark?
Yeah, Mark did, because you gotta remember, Mark died, right?
Mark
in the
died
desert.
in Egypt.
Yep, he
He
died.
died in Egypt. Okay. I didn't quite catch
Khonshu
on that.
brought him back to life in exchange for him becoming Khonshu's avatar.
Right.
Okay.
That's the deal.
And so
it's
where does
talking about.
Steven come from? Like, is it actually dissociative identity disorder? Did it come from trauma from him dying specifically? Or where does that come from? Did he have it before this?
In the comics, it's based off of the fact that he juggles all these different characters and personalities that he portrays. Like, he's a cab driver, like, that he uses to, like, fight crime. You know what I mean? He's like a stockbroker, you know, like, that's wealthy and shit, like a Bruce Wayne character and whatnot and everything. And that all becomes like an intertangled web, you know, of like personalities. They're doing it differently in the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't want it to look like Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, they wanted to switch it up.
The Mr. Knight character specifically, whoever like he is normally, is supposed to be like the Bruce Wayne type of version of him.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's kind of why I'm more confused about the show, because there's a couple of lines here and there that you have to really catch in order to understand exactly what's happening. But that's my overall thought on it. But it might just be because, as Jeff mentioned earlier, he was high while watching it. I was high while watching it too. So,
well, Vincent, you know, also too, Marvel really hasn't given us much to work with in terms of the Elder Gods and Khonshu and these concepts like Shumagorath and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these, like, beings, you know what I mean? Like, you know, Mephisto, you know, Nightmare, like, these beings that are from, like, back, like, way back, you know what I mean? Like, you know, that are, like, celestial type characters, but live in a different, like, universe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're all attracted to Earth for some reason.
Yes, they all want to be on Earth. They all do.
Of all the specks in the massive universe, they all come to Earth.
Yes, they all want to go to Earth. Like, Shumagorath's main goal throughout history is to get on Earth and, like, retake Earth. Because at one point, Shumagorath, like, controlled Earth.
and with that, gentlemen, I am going to say good night for the evening. I also have to get to work in the morning, so thank you for having me on the show, Jeff, and Cybernetic, and Renee, and Jeff.
We're always really happy to see you, brother.
Yeah. Would you like to plug anything before you leave, Vincent?
I don't have anything to plug. I'm just here to have some fun.
All right, sir. Well, have a great night.
Take care, brother.
Night, Vincent.
Night.
All right. So
I'd like to make a rule, Cyber. Anytime that anybody on the show's video freezes, I'd like to plug a big fat penis in their, like, mouth drawn in, like, while they're frozen, as a rule.
Okay. You work on that, sir. You work on that.
Yep.
All right. So, Renee, your thoughts?
I don't know. If Jeff Bowman's face freezes, I wouldn't dare draw a penis on that face.
I wouldn't either. Are you kidding me?
Oh, I don't know why you say that.
Oh, he smiles.
Because you're too nice, Jeff. You don't deserve a penis.
I meant thoughts on the show, not about a penis in Jeff's mouth, okay?
I don't know where that came from.
There was one scene where Jeff,
I don't know either.
A while ago, Jeff was walking through his house and he went into this room. It was dark and I thought, oh, wow. That's a comic book look right now. That's a villain right there.
Only on the MCU Bleeding Edge people out there watching this.
We have our own villain.
This is a tame version of the Bleeding Edge. What, are you kidding me? Oh, so Cyber, listen, man, I've got some good shit for us. I'll tell you right now. I borrowed off of the TikTok live stream that me and fucking Cyber grinded the fuck out for 2 hours last night, like a bunch of gangsters, getting after it on TikTok. Old school, you know. I borrowed from that. So I'm going to set y'all up right now. I'm going to tease you. We're going to get into what is it going to be like when they do this, the three Scarlet Witch films that they're eventually going to do with the MCU. But we're going to start with
What are we doing?
Oh,
So
nothing.
we wanted to finish what we were doing before you start that, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I think we hadn't finished the show yet.
Oh, my bad. Hey, listen, I smoked crack today, okay?
Okay. Anyway, so Renee, your thoughts on the end of the show?
Yeah, I think the very last scene that's that's Mark sitting there, and I guess, and I like I said, I don't know a lot about the Moon Knight character, but I'm assuming he was a mercenary before he got it. Perhaps he got somehow enchanted while he was doing a mission in Egypt somehow. Who knows? But yeah, I think it looks like the Mark character, the Mark persona, is going to take over, and he's going to be more. We'll be seeing more of him. And then, Stephen will be kind of trying to butt in, and he'll be the one in the mirror trying to talk sense into, Mark or whatever. So, yeah, like I said, I think the episode was not as much thriller, not as much action in it as the first episode. True Knowledge was talking about the Jackal.
Hey, don't call me True Knowledge. I just experienced DOE a minute ago.
Well,
I didn't even know what the fuck was even going on.
Well, True Knowledge. Anyway, the Jackal scene. The point of the whole scene, that was just a generic action scene and everything going around. The point was the Mr. Knight and Moon Knight interacting with each other, and Mark and Stephen interacting with each other and flipping back and forth. So I think that was supposed to be the focus on that. So you didn't need to have as much action that was going to distract from that.
Okay, thank you. JB, your final thoughts, sir?
Man, that whole fight scene was awesome. What I thought was cool was how he took all the damn half moons out of his chest, and was like, what I mean? That was awesome how they did that. And then when the Jackal was on the spear through the temple piece there, and it's disintegrating, you see the half moon come out and it flies right back down. He grabs it, puts it right back in there. That's just awesome the way they did that. But no, the scene where he starts arguing with Stephen in the mirror, when Stephen's like, it's cold in here, I don't like this, and he's like, just breathe deep, it'll be all right, it'll go. He ends up getting in an argument with it, busting the glass, and then Khonshu starts talking to him. He's like, you were nothing but a corpse when I found you. And so that gets real serious then, and then he's like, you lost the scarab. Did you notice when Harold got that scarab from the guy just died? I mean, he just died right there in the middle of the street, and Layla was on the bike. She noticed that. She saw that. I wonder if she's going to try to get that scarab back from Arthur. If she's going to try to break in there and get back out. I guess we'll find that out. But no, then when it flashed into Egypt, we know what's going to happen there. I mean, they're going on the journey then, which is what I've been looking forward to. But I thought it was cool as hell, him sitting there beside the bed. And of course, they start out with the mirror, and that's Stephen in the mirror. And of course, the mirror is cracked and smashed. And then you see Mark sitting there, and of course, he's got his liquor bottle, so he's already getting, he's lit up. So I thought that was pretty cool how it's showing us the contrast between the two.
You bring that up, Jeff. If you'll recall the very opening scenes in Apocalypse Now, where Marlowe is, or not Marlowe, whatever the Martin Sheen's name was in that, where he busts a mirror, and he's this crack special forces military mercenary, or not a mercenary, but a military man sitting, waiting on his mission, and that's what Mark is doing at the end of that. He's sitting and waiting on that mission.
Very true.
Yeah, we're going to see it. It's going to be cool. The next episode, I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
The first episode I watched at least 7 times over the course of the week.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too.
Because it was so good. It was just so good. But this
I've watched
episode,
this one. I've sat here and watched this one while we've been talking. I mean, I've watched it.
That's what I did.
3 or 4 times.
was
Yeah, it's
looking at
yeah,
that.
it's a very good
going back
episode.
and forth. I went back to the Scarab when you were talking about that, so I went back to see. I rolled it back to look at that scene. Yeah, and I can see what you were saying. It was kind of a little bit of a wobbly to it when it came up off that plate, and yeah, it did look real. I mean, it could have been a little drone. Who knows?
Yeah, it almost looked like a small drone. You know, but I don't know. They'd have to be really, really good to. Well, I mean, we didn't see. All you see is that. So,
But
I don't know how close they'd have to be.
Out, you know, they can erase stuff or on those digital. They don't do anything on film anymore. They do it right straight to digital.
Very true.
Tell you what, though, I like the music in these episodes, though.
Yes.
The soundtrack's going to be awesome.
That eerie little.
Yeah.
If it's not Bandmate, who gives a fuck?
All right. So, Jeff, Mr. True Knowledge, do you have anything final words to say, sir, before we move on to your little segment, sir?
No. I mean, honestly, we talked Moon Knight all the way through. We covered it. We've got a good fucking panel out here. You know what I'm saying? They handle their business. I've got some good shit to drop here, so
all right.
You know.
So that is it for the Moon Knight review, guys. I want to thank you for watching, and we're going to turn it over to Mr. Jeff to talk about WandaVision, or I should say Scarlet Witch films that we kind of discussed last night. And all yours, Jeff.
And Cyber, great job on the moderation tonight, brother. Great job. Very concise as usual. And hey, you know what? Couldn't ask for a better group to rock the rest of the show out together and whatnot than fucking Jeff B and Renee and whatnot and Cyber, my people over here. So check it out, right? What I got to work with is this. I want to wrap up with what are our thoughts on what it's going to go down, how it's going to go down, what it's going to be like when they end up eventually doing Elizabeth Olsen Scarlet Witch solo films. They're going to do them. It's going to happen. But let's start off with, let's have a hypothetical. Let's do some theorizing in terms of what if they did a WandaVision season 2, okay? You know, what if that happened and they did do it? All right? I just want you guys to imagine, or go out of the box a little bit and just kind of give me your thoughts on, okay, if we got WandaVision season 2, we're not going to get it. But if we did, what characters would come back? You know what I mean? Who would we have? Who wouldn't we have? And give me two or three new characters that might pop up.
It's going to be hard to figure that out. I mean, we won't know that till we see the Doctor Strange movie. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen.
There's not going to be a WandaVision season 2.
I mean, we can't speculate on anything until we see what happens in Doctor Strange with WandaVision, because we don't know what's going on.
Let's theorize. Let's theorize, baby. Hey, if you want to step out on this one, that's okay. You can just chill out. We'll handle it. Okay. No, I'm just saying, man. Give me your idea, what you think, how, a season 2 WandaVision would have went down if we knew for a fact it was going to happen. You know what I mean? It was set. It was dead set. We're going to have it. You know what I mean? How would it go down, kind of? What characters would come back? Where would it go? And I'll start with you, Renee, and I'll just ask you, first, again, what characters come back? Who do we have?
In a WandaVision movie.
WandaVision season 2.
Oh, if they were going to do a WandaVision season 2. Well, I mean, if they were going to do a season 2, I think it would be she and trying to get back with White Vision, because that's the love of her life and the love of it. Well, his little short life. That's the only woman he's ever known. Let the man get out there and experiment. But anyway, yeah, I think that would be the trajectory of that particular show, because that was a love story and whatnot. But I'm like Jeff B. I don't know how I would, without seeing Doctor Strange coming up.
Yeah.
We're not gonna. we got to see how her character lands at the end of that movie, and then I think we can sort of speculate a little bit better about what a WandaVision movie or a WandaVision or a Wanda movie or a WandaVision 2 would be. But as far as characters coming back,
who would come back? I mean, if you had to guess, like,
probably Agatha. Although I think she's getting her own TV show herself.
She is.
She because she's into the witch stuff. I would guess any of the witch theme type characters, possibly trying to reconnect with her children, trying to recreate those. I think she maybe doesn't realize it yet, but she maybe has the ability to create a whole life from inert matter. I mean, I think she's supposed to have that power. I don't know if they'll ever display that, but trying to reconnect with her kids, stuff like that, trying to find out who she is, and trying to find her brother, Quicksilver. I'm sure she would love to, in another dimension, find him again. So yeah, that's about all I can think of.
But you know what? I like that a lot, because you know what? That makes me wonder, when you go that far with Wanda's powers, how does Wanda fit into an eventual Avengers if she's that powerful?
Well, when it comes to, particularly when we start getting into the next phase, sort of the main theme, which was for the first 4 phases, was really leaning into Thanos. I mean, not every story was told, but there was increments of that saga that we're building. So we're building toward the threat is the multiverse and the destruction of the universe when all the multiverses come together and annihilate each other or whatever it's going to be. So I think magical forces, or the mystic arts, that's going to play into it much more than the Infinity Stones, the Infinity Stones.
That's a good point. It really will be. So Cyber, basically, Cyber, if you had to kind of go out there and say again, let's be hypothetical, okay? They're doing WandaVision Season 2. Give me 2 characters, heroes or villains, that would pop up, that would be new in Season 2.
New. Yeah. In it. Not returning. New.
Who they could be in the MCU already, but they'd be on the show for the first time.
Let's think. I can see Mordo popping up, and I can also see even Wong showing up in the show to be basically maybe be a mentor or something like that. Going off of let's just say Doctor Strange 2 doesn't happen, okay? Let's just throw that out of there. Let's say that we don't need to watch that in order to see what would happen with WandaVision 2. If that didn't happen, like Wanda wasn't even in Doctor Strange 2, and we're just going off of what Season 1 of WandaVision was, I can foresee seeing Mordo or even Wong popping up and kind of becoming like a mentor and leading to meeting Doctor Strange.
Or Doctor Strange could pop up since he never actually got to be in WandaVision Season 1.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. What about, going back to you again, Cyber, what about like a theme or a story for that second season? Like, I mean, if you had to just kind of off the cuff it, what do you think what kind of direction do you think they could go to make it work? And we talked about this last night. It's tough. It's very difficult.
I mean, to make it work, you would have to come up with a completely different new story that expanded on what they did in WandaVision 1. Because like we said last night, how they did every episode like another TV show, that was a huge success of why the show was so good. So they would literally have to do the same thing, but alter it completely to alter that and change it so that it would allow it to continue in that progress, but also keep it fresh and also kind of expand on what we've already known from the Infinity Saga.
Well, if anybody can make it work, it's Chloe Zhao. We know that already. So, I mean, let's be clear here, okay? I mean, Chloe Zhao, without question, it would be a lockdown. But Renee, again, I don't want to push you too far.
Okay.
But spinning off of WandaVision, going into the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, we know we're not getting a second season of that show. It's not happening.
Right.
But hypothetically, if they did one, who would come back? What would we have as far as characters, that would still be there and will be on the show for season 2?
Baron, what's his name?
Zemo, yep.
He would come back. I guess, what's her name? Susan Carter.
Sharon, yep.
She's turned evil or something. I don't know exactly what was going on.
She's the power broker.
Yeah, the power. Yeah, she's gotten whatever. She started out as a good guy, but now she's dodgy. So yeah, she would come out. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Because they're pretty much. I think both those characters are going to move into the movies. They'll be back in prominent roles in the movie series.
Good. I hope so.
Yeah, definitely. Falcon, Captain America.
Well, let me bounce off that, because again, I know this is tough. I understand that, Renee. I've never really asked you before about your thoughts on Captain America 4. Okay? I mean, I've got the poster behind me. I'm obviously very high on Sam Wilson Captain America. How do you feel about Sam Wilson Captain America?
Yeah, I mean, I think he deserved it. His character, he started out as, not really a part of it, and then he built his way into the Avenger role and developed as a character along the way. And yeah, he deserves it. And then in the series, he was playing off the fake guy, the one that they, the movie star that they was trying to put forth as the new Captain America, who was just a complete piece of crap. And so there was contrast in how when you try to create a hero, you try as a propaganda tool, it's not going to work. So I think that's kind of like what they were talking about in that series. Yeah, like I say, as far as having I don't know that they would wasn't a lot at the end of that would I think would make for a good second season. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It was.
Hey.
I think they pretty much wrapped it up, and they may pick up on some of the themes later on. I don't know.
Hey, that's a good point, I think, to make. I think Cyber would agree with you with me on that. That you know what? Maybe a second season of Falcon and the Winter Soldier wouldn't have been all that good. Or really worked. And I guess, honestly, for me, getting into, I know it's very tough, with us not seeing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness yet. Cyber and I had a big discussion last night about what's going to happen when they end up doing solo films with Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlet Witch. So, again, just off the cuff, hypothetical, Renee, do you think they'll make solo films with that character?
Hang on just a second. I'm going to call.
You're okay. Hey, it happens to all of us. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you probably smoke more crack than I do.
Yeah, well, no, too many cigarettes. What I was like. So now let me get this straight. Are they going to do a solo Elizabeth Olsen movie?
No, I'm asking you. Do you think they should do it?
But are they?
No, they haven't said it yet,
Okay,
officially.
they haven't said anything about it. Okay, that's what I was wondering. I thought maybe there's a movie coming.
No, I'm asking you. Should they do it?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, if they can. I mean, she's a good actress. Elizabeth Olsen is a really good actress. I don't have anything.
Well, you tell me. I mean, like, from a timing standpoint, where we're at in the MCU, right? She's going to be Doctor Strange 2, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, what's next for her in the MCU?
Well, she'll continue as a part of that team for the next few minutes. Whatever team Doctor Strange is going to have to build to fight off the multiverse threat from Kang and all these people. He's going to need her powers to help with that. She's a very powerful witch, and he's going to maybe help her develop that. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's like what you're saying. I mean, I don't know if they do one. I don't have any problem with it. I don't have any problem with any movie.
Well, Renee, the fact of the matter is that Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios, has totally gone completely behind Elizabeth Olsen as the main female character of the MCU. Mm-hmm. They've walked away from Brie Larson and switched over to Elizabeth Olsen, and she is she's the one. Mm-hmm. They're all in.
That's fine.
So I mean, I don't know. Cyber and I talked about it last night. To me, it seems inevitable. I don't see how it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, she's very valuable right now. She's very in demand. Mm-hmm. I don't know, Cyber, you tell me. What are her prospects from a film standpoint, based off what she's done in the MCU? Does that taint her to where serious, major directors, with major films, are not going to want to touch her?
No, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for her because of how popular she has become as the Scarlet Witch. I mean, we've already seen it, from just her part in Avengers and Ultron. She's done a lot of movies, prior to doing the Avenger films and so forth and stuff like that. So she's a huge success. Yeah. And a lot of directors are going to want to work with her, and I'm sure she'll be doing lots of projects besides, with being Wanda and so forth. But like we were talking about last night, it just seems that for Marvel to go in the right direction, they need to do a Scarlet Witch film, because look how successful Captain Marvel and Black Widow were, because they don't really have very many female lead films. Those are the only two so far. I mean, we've had, Black Widow, of course, in all the Avenger films and so forth, but we haven't had many female-led films, which, that's why Miss Marvel is going to be so popular, why She-Hulk is going to be so popular.
Well, it's hard to pull characters. Here's the issue. When you're pulling, the classic characters like Captain America and Thor and all these people that go way on back, they were all male characters, pretty much. I mean, they didn't really... That's just not what sold. I'm not bringing up feminism or anything like that. That was just the facts. The characters were mostly male. So as we move into the films and whatnot, and they're still sticking with the old characters pretty much. A lot of the newer characters that have come since them are female, but they're not as familiar to the greater audience out there, like me, who would not be familiar with those characters at all. So I think they have to deal with that issue. I know you guys, I think... I'm not going to point fingers. I'll just say that I've heard it said they didn't like that they changed the sex of Captain Marvel from male to female. And I always kind of chuckle at that because, okay, well, Captain Marvel's not even a human. So we don't know what sexuality people...
Well, you tell me, Renee, you tell me, what is this?
Okay, that's a video that you tend to show about every other week. And it looks like Mike Tyson trying to play tennis.
I think Marvel needs to, go with that. I apologize.
Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Yeah, but going back to what I was saying, when... I think just, but my goodness, look at all the male characters, superhero characters are good gracious. If they change one from male to female, one character that they've done that to, it's not the end of the world.
I was thinking earlier with Moon Knight, what if they take that chick from Moon Knight and make her trans? You know what I'm saying? She'll become trans the series.
I think Oscar Isaac can do that.
Okay.
Slap a little rouge on him.
What do you think, Cyber?
On what?
That female
I think we lost Cyber.
That female character from Moon Knight, they should make her trans in the series.
And what would be the purpose?
There's no purpose.
Then no.
Inclusivity, Cyber. Anyways, Cyber does not find this as amusing as I do, but that's okay. I'm a lot younger than Cyber. He is 77 years old, and I'm of course 23. So at that point. You know what I mean? No, I'm just kidding. Bottom line, I'm going to cut it there because this is tough. It really is. We're going way deep into the MCU and whatnot and everything. We've got a lot ahead of us right now in the short term. I want to just go ahead and put I want to bless everybody. I want to wish, God bless everybody out there who goes to watch Morbius. I hope that you survive. I'm going to see it, and I'm bringing my defibrillator for the film, just to make sure I'm okay. And because I've gotten such great reviews from people about it.
Be good or bad? I don't even know.
Oh, I mean, what I'm hearing, it's amazing.
Oh, okay.
I enjoyed it.
Hey, Cyber liked it. Hey.
Will they put that on Disney? No, that won't be on Disney. Will
No, it's Sony.
No,
it'll show up on one of the other streaming services. I'll get it then.
Yeah. Essentially. But anyways, folks, I want to thank Cyber as always, for banging out such a great show. I want to thank Renee, as always, for being a ride or die chick. And, I'll plug it for everybody. Renee's from sakaar.freeforums.net, the podcast of champions. She's a frequent guest on the MCU's Bleeding Edge. Cyberneticshark is a veteran YouTuber that makes content on multiple platforms, all under Cyberneticshark. That's how he does it. You know what I'm saying? So just look for that, and it'll be him. That's how it works. Makes good content, good-ass guy, handles his business. So, as far as I go, hey, I'm just here, to serve society, baby. You know what I mean? I'm all for the good of everybody, and I'm spreading the love. And this was a great Moon Knight review. Moon Knight episode 2 was great, and I'd say I think episode 3 will probably be better. I do. We'll see. But I will say that the Ironheart series, I don't think will be as good as Moon Knight. Just letting you know right now. Either way,
a really good series on. It's called Winning Time: The Rise of the Laker Dynasty. It's on HBO. It's really good. Has nothing to do with comic books, but it
sounds interesting.
It's a good TV show.
We were going to talk about the Halo series tonight, but I didn't see episode 2, unfortunately. Did you check any of that out, Renee?
I haven't. No, what channel's that on?
Oh, it's on Paramount.
Oh, I don't carry that. No.
I got you.
I haven't seen it.
I'm probably going to watch it tonight. But either way, thank you to Cyber. Thank you to Renee. Thank you to Noah. Thank you to Vincent. Thank you to Jeff B. Thank you to all of you wonderful people out there that make the Bleeding Edge what we are. And peace.
Peace.
Hey. I said, excuse me, but you don't understand where I'm at. I was all around the world, on span, across the map. I've been laying low and now it's time to pop up, bitch, I'm back. Now I'ma run it up. Snooze on the kid that you dumb or what? You better go get your numbers up.